Welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology forecast for January 6th through the 12th. This week is about inspired action because this week we have Mars, the planet of action, initiation, and courage, moving into Cancer, where it will aspect Neptune, which is the planet of inspiration, getting into the flow, moving with the flow of things, and even this getting into a call or being moved, or even spiritual experiences. We also have Mercury changing signs and the Sun aspecting Chiron, the planet of healing, healing vitality, healing the sense of self, and some other things that we'll talk about that are happening this week. My name is Shauna McGrath. I'm a depth psychotherapist and an astrologer, and I'm so honored to share the astrology of this week with you from a depth psychological perspective. So let's first start with Mars. So Mars actually retrogrades back into Cancer on Monday this week, on Monday the 6th. And so Mars is really important right now over the next couple of months because it is retrograde, which happens about every 2 years or so. So the retrograde is where Mars appears to move backwards in the zodiac from our perspective here on Earth. And so this is a concentrated focus on Mars themes. It brings Mars themes more into the forefront, and it also gives us an opportunity to reflect and contemplate on our experience of Mars. Mars is connected to action, assertiveness, directness, like really this sense of doing something, taking tangible, sustainable, sometimes very physical action. It's also very connected to our physicality, our experience of drawing boundaries, of saying no, of standing up for something, of fighting for something. And there's also this phenomenon with Mars around agitation or anger or aggression, and how that works for us, all of those normal experiences of anger and aggression. And so Mars has been retrograde from December 6th. So it's stationed retrograde in Leo at the early degrees of Leo. And then it's been slowly moving backwards through Leo. And this week, Mars actually moves fully back into the sign of Cancer. It's going to be there for a little bit. So this is a shift from our experience of Mars themes, action, anger, assertiveness, standing up for oneself or for something else, advocating for something, from that being in the sign of Leo, which Leo is much more about leadership and I would say like panache and being forward facing in the world. Leo is also connected to self-expression and play and generosity, giving and receiving, and how we experience affection and the sort of youthful or childlike play quality to affection and even just play in life in general. And so from December 6th, especially when Mars station retrograde, up to this week, the focus has been more around those themes. And then now I will say, what do I want to say here? So Mars in Cancer and Leo, there's this strong connection because Mars has been very slowly making its way through Cancer. It moved forward into Leo. It's going to station or it's going to retrograde back into Cancer this week. It's going to be there for a while, and then it's going to move forward finally into Leo again. But it's really having a very long stay in these two signs, and there's this kind of interconnection here between these. So I'm saying that because it doesn't quite feel like an on-off switch with the themes of Leo and Cancer. I think we might experience it that way, and because this is a broader phase, this is a broader chapter of life that spans across time, there is this sort of mixture, I think, this cocktail or sandwich of Cancer and Leo themes. So Cancer is, of course, about feeling, emotions, intuition, the psychosomatic connection of life. And Cancer as a sign, as a quality, is more about security and protection and nurturing, and how we give and receive nurturing, how we feel cared for, how we care for ourselves and for others. And with Mars being in this sign, as it will be for starting this week and then a little bit of time, this is an opportunity to look at how you take care of yourself through action, through physicality, through saying yes, through saying no, through this sort of determined, like having a sense of force or initiative or, again, action. So I want to give you some dates here to sort of give some context to the different themes that are happening. So we know that Mars stationed retrograde on December 6th, and previous to that, Mars was in Cancer from September 4th through November 3rd. So I share that with you because that may have been a little bit of a preview of what Mars in Cancer is like for you. So you can look at, okay, what was September and October like for you, from like early September to even early November? What kind of themes were happening for you around your experience of assertiveness, action, anger, courage, those kinds of things? Because Mars will be back in that same place that it was during that time. And so Mars is in Cancer here this week, Monday, January 6th, and it will be there for quite some time, until April 19th is when Mars moves into Leo again. So we have quite a bit of time here with Mars in Cancer. And Mars will station direct in Cancer on February 23rd. So we'll talk more about that over time. But I'm saying that because I want you to know that there was a period in September and October where we had this Mars in Cancer, where there was a bit of this preview. And we have a good solid chunk of time with Mars in Cancer here. And so this means a good solid chunk of time to reflect on how your emotions, and I think also, like, I want to say too, that in the West, we tend to separate out our emotional quality, our emotional experience, and the physical experience, and they are so interconnected, as we are learning more, or relearning, I suppose, more and more through research, is that the body affects the mind, affects the emotions. There is not a separation, and so I think that that's really emphasized here with Mars in Cancer, because it's about the physical action, especially like what we're feeling moved to do or to say, what our emotions invoke in us, I think is really a strong quality here with Mars in Cancer. And so this can look like a few different things. This can look like becoming more aware of your emotions and what your emotions or even your physical body is saying to you through the somatic experiences that you have. It can be connecting more with a visceral sense of anger or agitation and what that means for you, what your psyche is communicating to you through anger, agitation, or like needing to move, or maybe frustrations where you can't move, and how to find a way to take action, even if that cannot be the way that you want it to be, or the way that you imagine it, or the way that maybe feels normative for you. Okay, so the other piece of this week is that Mars will make a trine to Neptune this week, Neptune and Pisces. And this is kind of an interesting quality because Mars has this very, we could call it a sharp or assertive, even in Cancer, I think. Mars has this like forward, like I'm going to do something. And then Neptune has this quality of softening, smoothing out, or even dissolving. Neptune connects us to the unseen, to the flow of life that we cannot always see. It connects us to inspiration and feeling moved and feeling called. It also connects us to possible confusion or illusion or things not being what they actually seem. There's this illusionary sort of element to Neptune that can be like the more we can think of it as the distorted quality of Neptune, where we get confused or we get deceived, whether that is intentional or not. There's a deception sort of quality to Neptune. And what I will say, though, this week is because this is a trine aspect, which is when the planets are in the same element. In this case, it's water. Cancer being a water sign, Pisces being a water sign. There's this ease and flow. So, of course, it could be an ease of not seeing things clearly. I think that could certainly be the case. My hope, though, is that this is more about connecting in to your Mars experience and what it means for you, and what it means for you emotionally, spiritually, metaphysically, and connecting into a more subtle or deeper layer of your emotional experience, of your psychosomatic experience. And so I think what this may look like, I know that sounds maybe a bit out there, more metaphysical. I think what this can look like is, I'll also say, okay, side note, anytime we have Mars Neptune in aspect to one another, even a trine, the physical energy can feel a little bit lower. It's more about going inward than going outward. Though I think it's still Mars, and there's still this kind of active quality to it. So I think that this is a fantastic week for doing less and having this mindset that less is more. And that even when it appears that you're not doing something tangible or productive, whatever the fuck that means, that being productive isn't necessarily where it's at. Of course, you have to do what you have to do. You need to meet your responsibilities, take care of your household, etc. But I want to like have Neptune be this invitation to not have to be productive or results oriented this week. Neptune is more about the experience, and that the experience is meaningful, and that does something, whether or not it is producible or productive. That's not really what this aspect is about. This aspect is about having an experience and following the inner call or the inner inspiration to act, and acting from the inside out. This is really what Mars Neptune is about, especially Mars retrograde in these water signs. So I think that we could think about this week as checking in with yourself and noticing where you feel and it's not gonna, so Neptune is not it's not, in my experience at least, Neptune is not always super direct or explicit. The intuition or the feeling moved or feeling called, it can feel sort of subtle. It can feel subtle, but it can feel important or compelling at the same time, if that makes sense. So I think notice where you feel called, where you feel compelled, where you feel inspired. And this could be something, it doesn't have to be big things. It can be as simple as there is a certain place that you want to go have a meal, or that you really want to take in this movie, or you want to go to this place or that place, whatever it is. These kinds of things These are good ways to connect in with the intuitive function in general, is to notice where you're moved or called, especially if it doesn't quite make sense, and to notice what happens when you follow that. Okay, so that's a big component of this week, and we'll continue to deepen more and more into this as Mars moves through Cancer, but this is sort of the beginning. Now this week we also have Mercury changing signs. Mercury moves into Capricorn. And so Mercury is the planet of the mind, communication. It's also connected to business and divination and anything that involves transport, moving from one thing to another, being in two different experiences at one time. Mercury is a connector and it's a bridge. It's a psychopomp in that way, a figure that guides folks or souls from one thing to another. So Mercury is really this connecting, this intermediary. And so when we have Mercury moving through the zodiac, it tends to stay in one sign about every month or so. So it moves through the signs, the zodiac, very quick. That being said, Mercury has been in its previous sign in Sagittarius for a couple of months because we had Mercury retrograde there. So Mercury was retrograde through Sagittarius from November 2nd to January 8th this week. The 8th this week, Mercury will move from Sagittarius into Capricorn. And so this, I think, really completes any kind of review or contemplation or changes that you were thinking about or processing as Mercury moves into an entirely new sign, an entirely new territory. And Mercury in Capricorn tends to be more about contemplating and thinking about practical matters, the structure of things. It's like this week I think there's this quality of planning out or putting into place or doing the communications to put into place the things that you've been thinking about from November forward to now, that you can actually do something about it, and that there is an actual practical plan in place that may be happening. And so Mercury will be here in Capricorn from this Wednesday, the 8th, through January 27th. So we have a little bit of time here. And I think this, again, is going to be just more of a clarifying sort of quality of Mercury. And so this week we have these different qualities that are happening where the Mars Neptune, there's more of this possible diffusion, can possibly be like high on inspiration but low on the practical details of things. But then Mercury moving into Capricorn does have that quality that supports practicality. So I don't know, you'll have to let me know how you feel. But I think, and of course this will depend on what's happening in your life and your birth chart, but I think there is this quality of being able to mentally ground and to mentally settle yourself into things. And so actually, as I'm talking through this, that might be kind of nice if you are connecting more with your inner emotional experience, that Mercury being like the ability to process information has more of a grounded, practical kind of tone to it. I think also, of course, a really great time to do any kind of divination on the next month with Mercury moving into Capricorn. It is this new beginning around how it is that you take in information and how you communicate. So if you want to pull some tarot cards on it, or do the I Ching or any other or oracle that you like to do. Okay, so also this week we have the Sun also in Capricorn aspecting Chiron, which is the planet of healing and mentorship and how we give and receive healing energy, help and healing. So this is a square aspect, so it's a bit of a tension here. And the Sun is connected to vitality, leadership, success, influence, recognition, and then also our experience of paternal figures or paternal people in general. And so I think this aspect, I think there's a potential here for receiving some healing or maybe even some very helpful information, some wisdom, so to speak. Chiron is also very connected to wisdom and the multiple healing arts in general, both practical and esoteric. And so the sun coming into this aspect with Chiron, there is something here around your vitality or your sense of self or even your ego, that core organizing principle of your identity, that there is some healing that you received, and that may be an experience of healing, but it may also be receiving some information or some advice or a prescription of sorts, something to do, a prescription, a proscription. And so I would be on the lookout for that. And I would be on the lookout for where there is a tension, a tense experience, or I guess I'll call it like a problem, for lack of a better term, that's like, okay, like there's something that you need to do in order to remediate this. And that the sun is coming into this aspect with Chiron. There's something here about seeking this support, seeking this help. And depending on what you do, of course, and what your role is, this may be you receiving some help or some healing or support, or giving, helping, healing, support. And I think that whenever we have Chiron, we're always looking at how we balance that quality of giving and receiving, and how we replenish that finite amount of that finite amount of vitality and energy that we have in order to give. And so that is something that may come up here as well. I think especially if you're a person that wants to give more than you receive as far as helping and healing energy, maybe a little bit of a time to balance that out and to receive help, to receive support. I think this is a fantastic week for it, and especially around your vitality and your sense of self. And so this can also be looking at the ways that you are successful, that you do have resources. And I think this could look even like asking for support from folks who are in a position, who are ready, willing, and able to assist you. Okay, and then the last piece that I'll say about this week is that we have our first quarter moon in the sign of Aries, and this happens on Monday the 6th. So this really kicks off this week because the moon in Aries is with Chiron. And so this is really connecting into that Chiron experience. And so that's also why I feel like there might be some healing that comes in here for you, or an opportunity, or something that maybe even involves your physical health or your physical well-being as well, or maybe your emotional or psychological well-being. Of course, they're all interconnected. And the first quarter moon is the point in the lunar cycle between the new moon and the full moon. And so this is a time this week of taking emotional risks, of putting yourself out there, of looking at what it is that you want to move forward on. It's a growth-oriented energy at this emotional level. So, of course, we always have all of these different aspects that are going on at any one time, and the moon cycle tells us about the subtle emotional tone. And this week, the emotional tone is about moving forward, about saying yes to things, about seeking. about looking to see how you want to allow your life to grow and flourish. Okay, so let us pull some tarot cards and see what else there is to say. Okay, so I invite you to get into a place that is comfortable, whether that is stillness or movement. And connect with some sensory experience. So whether that is the feeling of your breath, a sound that you hear, the sensation of the fabric on your skin, or maybe an object that you're able to gaze at. As much as you can, bring your focus into that one sensory experience and hold it there and really concentrate on that one particular experience. This is something to concentrate and focus your energy, to bring it in. And then imagine that you are contained within a beautiful sphere of light. Light can be any color that feels good to you. And this place is a wonderful moment to request the presence of your spiritual guidance team, ancestors, angels, whatever your relationship is with a benevolent divine guiding force. And ask that they are here with you to protect you, to help you, to guide you, and to communicate with you in a way that you can easily understand right now. Good. And then from here, bringing your focus into your heart. And from this place, maybe a question or a situation or an inquiry arises. Hold that in your heart softly. And as always, I'm pulling 3 cards, so you can certainly pick a card between 1 and 3 to be special to you, to be your card. Okay. Okay, so first card is the 7 of Wands. I'm using the Wild Unknown Tarot today. And I really love this card in this deck because the image is of this one wand that's in the center, and it has this really beautiful, very saturated orange, red, and yellow flame. And it's illuminating this space, and then the other 6 wands are laid to the side. And it's like this one wand is super bright, and it is emitting this, it feels like it's emitting this warmth and this brightness. I feel like we got this card in a different deck last week. You let me know. I might be misremembering that. But the 7 of Wands tends to be about staying true to your values, to what it is that, staying true to your integrity. And I really feel that here in this image with this one wand standing solitary here, illuminating and holding. I think we could also think of this as this one wand is holding space for the other wands. So there's a sense of strength and integrity here. And also, I did pull this card reversed. So sometimes when this card is reversed, it can tell us that we are being maybe too rigid in sticking with what it is that we know or think or believe, and that it would benefit us to listen to others, or to at least try to find a common ground, to find a sense of compromise, or at the very least hear out other possibilities. And so when I pull this reverse, the flame is actually pointing straight down. So I don't know, we're gonna look at the other cards and see what's coming up here, but there's definitely this theme around going at your own and maintaining your integrity and your principles and your values. And if the question of if that is important for you, if that is allowing you to stay true to yourself, and also is the sacrifice of that missing out on connection with others, or missing something in general. So let's see what else is here. The second card is the Two of Swords, and in this deck there's two swords that are crossing at the tip of the sword, and between them is what looks like an eclipse. There's like this black circle, and then around it is yellow and orange. And it just, the imagery, like the colors and the imagery really remind me of the first card that we pulled today, the Seven of Wands. So the Two of Swords is about, can be about decisions. It's often about balancing your intuition as well as your rational mind. So like balancing the heart and the feeling, but then also the practical thoughts around this. And I really feel this in this Mars-Neptune experience versus Mercury and Capricorn experience. And so there might be something here that you're deciding, that you're contemplating, that you're trying to see your way forward through. And when this card comes up, usually for me, the advice is to sit with it and to allow for an answer to arise. Like there's no need to push past that. That it's okay for you to hold the indecision. And of course, I know that's not always practical or desired. But there's something here about holding space for indecision that feels really important, that there's something new that is emerging, and it's not quite clear what that is yet. Okay, so now the last card is the Father of Pentacles in this deck, also known as the King of Pentacles. And in this card, it's this really beautiful deer that has large antlers. The deer is black and white, and then the antlers are rainbow colored. They start at purple, and then they move up to blue and green and yellow and orange and then red. And in between the antlers is one pentacle that looks like it's sort of like shining out. So the kings in tarot are typically about having influence, leadership, power, a sense of autonomy. And there's also this quality with the kings around having been through something, having experienced something. And then this is where that sense of confidence and purpose and even influence comes from. And in this case, it's the pentacles. So it's the suit of practicality, of practical matters, of worldly matters, of I think Pentacles also points to patience and that physical reality takes time. And so the King of Pentacles to me really represents a culmination around physical, tangible, material, worldly situations. So that can be like money, finances. I think to some extent it can also be our experiences of what it means to feel safe or secure or successful even. And so as I'm looking at these together, there is something here around, I'm actually going to hold it this way, the reversed way. So there's something here around possibly your integrity or how you interact with others, or like your movement forward on something. Like you're trying to keep your footing, and you're trying to, maybe, I don't know, you tell me, there's this feeling of like trying to do this on your own. Like this is, I'm really thinking with this Seven of Pentacles about, in the West, our strong identity with an individualistic way of being, that's very important, that's very encoded into our culture. And there's benefits and drawbacks of that way of life. And when this individualistic way of being becomes more rigid, in that it's like, okay, this is, I can't, I have to do this on my own, and that means that I'm successful. And for example, if I ask for help, that means that I am not successful, or that I'm weak, or, fill in your storyline of what that means for you. And so I think this card is about possibly questioning your capacity to do things on your own. And I'm really, as I'm like feeling into this, I'm really thinking about the sun making a square to Chiron this week, and asking for help and asking for support, and how important that is, especially around the solar themes with the flame here and the Seven of Wands in this particular card, with the flame being our vitality and our sense of self and our ability to keep that flame going. And that sometimes we need someone else to get some kindling or get some firewood for us in order to keep the fire going. And of course, sometimes there is advice or counsel that we receive that doesn't quite feel right. And I'm sure that you maybe have experienced this, where you get advice from someone maybe who even seems like a good source, and for whatever reason it doesn't quite fit. And so I think this card is about discerning where it feels like it's a fit or not a fit, and how much how you want to receive in order to further your own, in order to keep yourself going, in order to keep your vitality going. And in this conundrum, I'm calling it a conundrum because the card is reversed. In this conundrum, there is some like sort of Two of Swords, feeling into it, thinking about it. I know for myself, sometimes it takes me hours, days, weeks to really process how I feel about something. And so I think this card speaks to that experience of having time to process how you actually feel about something. Because there might be, okay, yeah, maybe this is the piece of the reversed, is there might be some confusion around how you actually feel about things, and some confusion around what is actually true for you. Is this feeling or this belief yours, or is it an influence from something outside? Which, it's neither is negative necessarily, and also there is this quality around bringing a conscious decision to this situation. And then from that, from like having a conscious contemplation, then there can be this sense of confidence. There can be this sense of, like, I'm really thinking about the antlers in deer. Metaphysically, that is connected to wisdom and inner knowing and the crown. Antlers are so interesting in general because they, there's there's blood, veins, and there's alive tissue in the antlers, and then at some point that transforms. And the antlers are also very Mars-like too. They're used for deer to battle for a mate and that kind of thing. So there's all of these qualities around this this sense of courage and surety and the ability to move forward, or the ability to stand in your own sense of self, which is the King of Pentacles, the Father of Pentacles, and that comes through this sense of wondering, wandering, curiosity this particular week, which feels very Mars Neptune to me. All right, so that is your forecast, your horoscope for this week. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I always love reading what your experiences are and what you're thinking or feeling with this astrology as it comes up. I am wishing you a wonderful new year, and I do want to let you know that I have a couple of spaces in my tarot therapy group, which is on Tuesdays in the evening. I'll have a link below to my website where you can read more about it. And in this new year, there are a few spaces open. If that is something that is of interest to you, I would love to hear from you. Group therapy is really cool because it is a unique experience where we get to have a helpful, supportive, and very often inspiring experience with folks from other different experiences, and then we get to learn and grow from each other. And so in this case, this particular therapy group is oriented around working with the tarot as a pathway into whatever it is that you're experiencing at the moment. So I'll leave that there down below. And of course, as always, if you want to find out more about me and my work, you can find me on my website, theastropsyche.com. All right, I'm wishing you a wonderful week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.